first picking this Talia, or maybe they want to get a different kind of mage getting ready for themselves. I know that Annie and Aurora have been two big champions for Knight so far this year.
Yeah, targeting Shanks, solid strategy here, especially because the Azir and the Yone are already off the board due to Fearless. Those were two of Shanks' best champions throughout the season. Obviously, we saw what he was able to do on it in game number 1. Now taking away that Rise and the Orianna, limiting your options and maybe even just giving Knight an early pickup to even force that pool to be pinched even harder at this point. On the other side, that Pantheon, feel like we're never going to see it at this point. Just constantly banned away on that red side, no matter who they are playing against. That Talia is something that you did mention, Alk. Would not be surprised to see Knight just lock this one in.
Thankfully, the Pantheon has only gone through twice. It is the biggest priority champion. It is 2-32 before today. So imagine that number has had to skyrocket in all of our drafts so far, and maybe might continue tonight. Talia, obviously, like you had mentioned, what is AL's response? A lot of the mid laners are taken away. Could be an Aurora that they could use as a flex. Flandre and Shanks have both played this champion at a pretty high level. Maybe they just want to match globals, though. The Galio is perfectly fine. Will mean that Knight will have easier times moving around the map proactively, however.
Also, theoretically, a flex down to support if Kael wants to play it, and you want to maybe just, like, open up another option for Shanks over in the mid lane. But pairing this Galio alongside the Xin Zhao makes for a very powerful mid-jungle 2v2 that will allow Tarzan to really flourish in this early to mid-game, just getting a lot of action across the map. The Talia Wukong combo, though, has been strong in its own right, and Rumble, normally a matchup into the Gwen, not available, so Bin's going to be able to select this one this time.
Okay. In terms of damage coming in from BLG, I like the setup that they have. Wukong Talia is going to make a Galio's life living hell in a lot of these instances. Same with a Xin Zhao, I think. Even with some of the shorter range members of BLG, the Xin Zhao is going to, I think, have a bit of a tougher ask when it comes to getting into the backline and actually being a big threat. AL now, big ultimates here coming on through. Now with the Nico, we are expecting for this to be a strong bottom lane pair for Hope and Kael.
You know, things like that Kalista, always very controversial here over the last couple of months at MSI, but normally that is the pairing, at least that we saw throughout the entirety of the LPL season. That's why it was always very funny to see people like flaming the Kalista for being bad, because we saw it dominate here in this league for quite a bit of time. Obviously, the metas evolve once you get to those international competitions, but very curious to see what exactly they want to pair this alongside with, the Nico specifically, which has been one of Kael's most prized picks.
And so, in looking at the second phase of draft here, I'm looking at for BLG, they need an AD carry that's going to be able to just sit in mid and wave clear, because you have two really strong side laners in this Gwen and Talia, who in theory should be able to very quickly push their waves and then move into sides or move into mid lane whenever they need to. So I think from AL, I like the idea that they're getting rid of things like the Karma and the Bard that will be able to move around the map, but maybe they'll just try to take a strong AD carry, maybe something even like the Xayah here, so that AL can have an easier time of actually punishing BLG in team fights.
Very curious. There's still a lot of AD carries still on the board. Obviously, the Varus and Lucian banned away, so those will not be on the table. The Jhin, though, just providing a little bit of extra utility. Going to be matched up well here with that Nico, that lockdown of the Tangle Barbs into the Deadly Flourish if you're able to find that combo. See what BLG want to lock in for their bottom lane, and Xayah Rakan could potentially be on the table here if that is a direction they want to go.
Alright, strong lane here from AL. The Jhin and the Nico definitely going to help them a lot. There's that Xayah and now the Rakan as well. So this will mean that AL can quickly change their position in fights. They can try to bait out a single ultimate, but then you'll have Rakan fly in alongside the Wukong, trying to just use the Cyclone and really crowd control the rest of the fight, lock down the members of AL so that Gwen and Talia and the Xayah can get their job done, and really make it difficult for anyone's Legends, who you kind of see what they have right now. I'm worried about whether or not they're going to actually be able to break through this. They pivot towards a Jace to try to give them more range and more upfront burst versus their opponents. We'll see. This is a strong lane, and I think when I look at AL, I can kind of see 1 to 2, 3 lanes of priority here for Tarzan to work with.
Yeah, great matchup into the Gwen specifically. That's why Flandre was picking that one, deciding between the Jace and the Kennen. Ended up going with the former. And as you mentioned, a lot of pushing lanes available here, specifically in those side lanes now for the Xin Zhao to really target. Even Shanks can kind of join along for the ride. However, though, if they're not able to get super far ahead, BLG's team fighting, very, very powerful. Now they have some of those easy engage threats like the Rakan, even a Taliyah wall, or that Wukong Cyclone. So a little bit more of a go button this time around for BLG if they're able to use it right.
I'm seeing something's happening over on Hope. Hope is asking a ref. Maybe we have time to run content. I don't know. We'll give it a couple more seconds here. But BLG, there's no traditional frontline here. Really, the tankiest member on your team is going to be this Wukong with the passive as well. So need to see BLG properly execute. Looks like we're getting off stage here. So is this going to be an AL 2-0 like some of us had predicted? Or are BLG finally going to be able to strike back in this series? It has been kind of weird to see them not only kind of flailing around some of the top teams of the LPL, but even internationally having, honestly, pretty lucky games. You think about their game versus FlyQuest in game number 3.
Oh my god.
The MCOY series to even start off the bracket stage where game 4 they're losing and it took a single fight.
Don't remind me of that FlyQuest game, man. I was just about to forget it. Reset, going to LTA, feeling super excited. Now it's just ruined by remembering that. We should have just backed away. Shouldn't have gone for the end there. I'm still gonna.
That's what happened when I asked Bobo, and he said the same thing. So, of like minds
we had the scaling composition. Okay. Anyway, BLG winning, of course, that series against FlyQuest, but then immediately falling to Anyone's Legends in pretty quick succession after that. Definitely want to change that narrative here, although it might be a little bit of time until they get the opportunity to do so, as we are in a bit of a pause. We can use that pause to reflect on what happened back at MSI. It was the last time we saw these two teams face off against each other, not necessarily just the LPL finals. And this is that play that you were talking about. It seemed like BLG got very close to winning some of these very decisive team fights, but AL somehow were just able to always come out on top.
It just came from multiple different angles. I mean, looking at Hope in these fights, this guy has been such a consistent AD carrier for such a long time. Only recently really getting more of a shine thanks to being on this Anyone's Legend roster. But the fact that we got to see not only him perform, but in particular Tarzan. I had a big bone to pick with Tarzan because he ruined my pick'ems in 2023 when he was playing on LNG. And T1 were supposed to lose. They were not supposed to beat every single team from the LPL on their way to finals. And then, cherry on top, Bin loses for the first time that year to Thashai and Weibo. Like, why do this to me? I didn't need this to happen to me.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't care about themselves, but they definitely feel bad that they ruined your pick'ems, right? Like, that's the most important part.
I wasn't even on LPL at the time, and they made me, they just had to do that to me. I guess 23 summer I was, but I don't know, man. Like, I was just really happy to see Tarzan. Now I'm done hating for a little bit here. Tarzan was really exciting to watch at this international. I had doubts, and I think a lot of fans who have internationally seen him play were thinking, okay, what form of Tarzan are we going to get this year? But so far, throughout the year, I think him and Kanavi have really been contesting top 2 domestically.
Yeah, and Kanavi on a team that didn't necessarily have those high-level performances, especially towards the playoffs. So right now it's a Tarzan show. We'll see if Top Esports are able to bounce back now that they do have Hong on their roster as well. So a bit of a change down there. But still, him, Kanavi, and Tarzan, I think very much the consensus top 2 junglers in the league at this point in time. Shun's making a name for himself over on JDG. But there's a reason that Anyone's Legends is at the top, is your defending champions. It is, of course, big reason, I should say, at least, is because of Tarzan.
Oh, yeah. This entire Anyone's Legends roster has been really exciting to watch. And even coming into this game, when we think about what they're trying to prove, I mean, they've made every single final domestically this year. Demacia Cup, Split 1, Split 2, and even taking home a trophy in one of those is really, really exciting. The first one in the club's history. You're going against BLG consistently. This is probably a team that you're constantly scrimming or getting a lot of practice versus, especially later on into playoffs. it's really early to start talking about this because we're only 8 days into the split, but we're expecting this to be another playoffs match. One that we're going to probably see at least 2 more times here, one with the double round robin and then later on into the season. And these teams are on very different trajectories, which I think is really interesting when we talk about what these two teams were expected to do coming into 2025.
I mean, again, BLG reaching the highest of highs, making it to an international final, making it to a Worlds final, winning an international title. It's not necessarily doing it again here this split. And they've tried many things to remedy that, whether it's Shadow coming in, or Beichuan coming in, or changing the coaching staff. Now Kael is here. Maybe he can play some jungle still. Who knows if he still got some of those hands after all those years on IG, like 10 years ago.
I mean, we had
right?
Maokai, remember? We had Maokai for the first 4 months of this year for some reason.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So
what a crazy ride it's been here for BLG. Again, it goes to show, and you have to respect it in a way, that this is an organization that really does pride itself on winning, on being at the top. And so as soon as something is maybe not at its peak and maybe not at the best form that it can be, they start to try to find ways to adjust. But maybe the ways of adjusting are the issue here recently, because BLG seems to have not found a formula, at least this season, that's been able to perform at a consistent level for at least like the entirety of a split, to say the least.
it's funny because Bin has been the franchise player for this organization all the way back from 2022, brought in to replace Breathe midway through the year. This team also was the organization that actually brought on Doggo to the LPL. Obviously, that never panned out in a more meaningful manner, but Bin has been on this roster for 3 years now. His contract actually ran out at the end of last year. I'm assuming he signed until the end of 2025 at the very least. But, I mean, they spent 2023 being the bridesmaid, always losing to a team like JDG, or in 2023 summer, losing to LNG and getting third. Then they go to Worlds, they get slapped by Weibo like we were talking. Then they come into 2024, we've replaced Kael, we have Knight now. This is supposed to be this is the big roster. We got one of the best mid laners and definitely the best player in the league at that time. And while they win LPL twice, they can't win any of the internationals. They come second to Gen G at MSI. They get second at Worlds. How long do we get such great rosters to last for? I think 2 years playing at potentially a top 2, top 3 level for this organization is really impressive when you think about how long and maybe how short some teams are. Like, we weren't even supposed to have ZOFGK for 3 years. That was never supposed to be a thing.
And now it's a roster with, at its core, has really stuck around with each other, now going into the second year. And not seeing the same results as they did just last year, where they, of course, made it to all these international finals, made it to Worlds finals. It's coming 1 game short of hoisting that trophy at the end of the year that has been so desperately desired for the LPL ever since 2021 at this point. But for BLG, just needing to find a way to lock back in. Maybe Shadow will be the answer, somebody who can maybe call some more of those shots. He always has been a very vocal leader on his team. But then the question of, mechanics come into play, especially going up against players like Tarzan. Can he be able to deliver? That's always going to be the question, and something that BLG are going to have to look towards for the remainder of this 2025 split number 3, as there's just a lot of different moving parts seemingly on BLG as we've gone throughout the year. I mean, we've talked about the rotating jungle thing. Maybe we get some more. Who knows?
Grapes, I have a question.
Yes, what is your question?
When are you going to start the game?
Right now? No way. Right now.
Oh! Let's go!
See, it does work. You can say caster start the game, and we do have all the power. We just want to talk about
God.
How good
Legendary
BLG
timing
was.
from us.
There's no way that just happened. All right, I've got psychic powers. We're ready here for the second game, seemingly, as we begin to load out onto the rift.
Don't say seemingly. You're like,
we're gonna load in. The gyros are gonna start. There's gonna be a pause, just instantly.
Don't say.
Surely.
I'm gonna take you off the broadcast, bro. Why are you saying that? Just, Chippy, throw up the gyos, bro. Like, just start the game.
Looks like we're getting ready for it right now. Hey, BLG, need an answer here if they want to have anything to say in terms of revenge. from both the MSI lower semis, the LPL grand finals. They all want to keep that history going.
Oh, those BLG Gyos were quiet. Oh, that's tough.
That's
you asked
crazy.
in game 1 if, you know, maybe the fans weren't really rocking with them no more. Look, even online, you know, I think the English community gets a small taste of it when they see things like Hoopu ratings, but the LPL fans, they are very vicious. You know, they want to see their team succeed. They hold their teams to a high standard as well. Very protective of their teams as it goes. So when your team starts to struggle, like BLG as a club, they're gonna want changes. They're gonna also demand blood. They're like, okay, what's going on? We're seeing so many jungle changes. That's not working. We're seeing some coaching staff changes. We'll see what that heads out to. So, looking for results. Same thing for the club here. BLG now, we're looking at these two junglers starting on opposite sides. Really going to be watching how this top lane goes, as Jace should have a pretty easy matchup going in with Gwen.
Yeah, Gwen, you know, or Ben, I should say, already going for a more defensive setup for Grasp the Undying, just to maybe try to stay a little bit healthier throughout this laning phase. Dorn shield start as well. Wow. It's going to be very important. This matchup, very tough here for the Gwen, as Flandre can just jump in with the To the Skies, of course, have that range advantage even when the Shroud's not available. So it's a tough time. Although Ben is going to hit level 2 first. The wave actually pushing into Flandre. That will be a slight win here for the BLG top.
He also has Phase Rush. Might be a solo kill here. Jungler's coming through, though. Tarzan's almost here. It's a flash away from Flandre. Ben's got to be very careful now. He's got to let this wave come back to him.
Oh, nice ward there. He's going to catch out Tarzan if he goes any further. So in order to make sure no counter jungling initiative has started, it'll be Tarzan instead heading back to base with a teleport forward from Flandre. That is just the win that Bin will get off that exchange.
All right, so a summoner spell 1 here by BLG. Good job from Bin to play on this Gwen, a champion that he has played a lot in years past. See what Hope and Kael are able to do by getting a half health chunk, but this means that Shadow will have a small advantage. He's already almost done with his 5th camp here. Should be going to his blue and then can kind of take his pick of the litter. He knows that the Jace doesn't have any summoner spells, so any damage that sticks onto this guy is going to be very permanent.
Yeah, only thing is, don't have a ton of crowd control now until you hit level 6 here for Shadow, but you can poke him out, make him take a bad reset, force him into a precarious situation. You're going to take that here if you are BLG.
Tough.
And that's exactly what Shadow's thinking about doing. Flandre sees this wave shoving away from him, and he's going to either try his best to clear this out or actually be put in a bad spot with Shadow arriving at just the perfect moment. One more auto attack will do it. It's going to be Shadow, the new jungler from BLG, picking up first blood.
And look at this wave, man. Like, this wave is extremely doomed. We were talking about this being a favorable matchup. I mean, Gwen has gotten banned, or at least she has gotten kind of hotfix nerfed a couple of times, especially taking away some of her HP, some of her armor growth throughout the levels. So, to see this punish, I don't think this matters. Tarzan now getting baited.
Shadow's here too. There's a chance that Tarzan could get chunked out a decent amount. He has a Conqueror proc. The wind becomes lightning. Does land though. And Shadow will get knocked up by the 3 Talon Strike.
Wow.
Accelerated Shock Blast takes him to less than 100 HP. And so actually AL doing a nice job of turning that play around.
Good thing for Tarzan, he gets access to his respawn Raptors, I guess. But
yeah,
he didn't do much in that trade. Tarzan walked mid. Flandre walked mid, maybe took a minion or 2, and then gets to go back top where it's still frozen here in favor of Bin. This has been a fantastic early game that is kind of predicated on some of the mistakes coming out from AL.
Certainly so. So, you know, BLG in a much better position, at least to start this one off. Shadow has gotten his opportunity to make his impact across the map. Has been now really coming online on this Gwen, and that's a big loss here for Flandre. I mean, you were supposed to win this 1v1 matchup up there, but now it ends up becoming a situation where you need to have Tarzan even come in to help bail you out a little bit. Let's see if they try to extend off the Bin, who's gonna get flashed on here. It's gonna be a nice return trade as Tarzan, with the wind becomes lightning, gets himself on the board.
Okay, what else can we get from this objective though? Because you see pings coming down onto the bottom side of the map. Neither of our mid laners having that level 6 quite yet. Shanks getting buffered on the wall. It's gonna be a short trade. But instead of going for any kind of movements towards this dragon, because Kael has been bouncing between this mid and bottom lane wave, it's instead just going to be continued full clears and just a minor objective or a minor advantage being found here by AL.
They've gotten themselves back in the driver's seat just off of that top lane play. Oh, look at that interaction. Shanks actually buffering that seismic shell. Just get a little bit of extra poke down. I see you.
Knight is very traumatized by Galio's. Galio's historically have been some of his weakness, and with the Zeers for some reason. It was funny because after last year's Worlds, Knight has put in some of the most games on Galio he has put in his entire career. In the last 7 months, he's put more games into Galio than he had in the last 4 years combined. So definitely doing a bit of a number on him in that Worlds Finals.
Yeah. Traumatizing, potentially, is the right word. The Galio might be in some trouble here, though. Shadow dashes forward. Remember, there's no crowd control on this Wukong until you hit that ultimate ability, level 6. Tarzan does have that crowd control. That means the Shadow has to back away.
They've also decided, oh, Flandre's dead here. Wait, On can come through?
Yeah, forcing that flash.
Flash. Okay. That's Dragon, though. I mean, at the very least, it could just be a play and a half here coming on through for Elk and On. But AL, they rotated their bottom lane wave just to make sure that Hope and Kael could maybe help crush Bin. But now what's going to happen is going to be a dive. Can Flandre get out in time? You also have Shanks coming on through.
For someone who got R5 counterpick, been a tough game for Flandre so far. Looking like he might try to turn things around as making sure that Elk is out of there. He goes and clears out the remainder of this wave. It does mean that BLG have reset away from the dragon. However, Tarzan's not really in the area to try to contest.
Something we get to see now with the summoner spell abuse that On does have. Kael will not have this, going for the in-lane rune of the Arcane Comet. On can play for 2 sides of the map at the same time. We got to see a little bit of this during game number 1, but now that On is going to be showing through mid, any play on bottom side, if they have a ward, you can kind of see there's a ton of vision here from BLG. If one member steps out too far, very quickly On could go for an engage, take a reset, and show up on the other side of the map quickly.
Power of the Sunseal Spellbook, which again got buffed a couple of patches ago, and it's really been the meta for supports ever since then. I just love it when, you know, this is a fun rune, right? You just get all these fun summoner spells in there. If you're a Rakan, you really need the Guardian or the Aftershock. Have a TP, have a Smite. That's what he's gonna go for this time around.
I love it. I
Kael,
think
going for the
it makes support so much more fun to play. Like, letting supports kind of show some of their skill, not necessarily, and just being able to figure out how far a Nautilus hook is really, really fun in my mind. It adds another layer of depth. I can't wait for Riot to remove this from the game because it's too powerful. And we'll see if they're going to use it here, because BLG, they got themselves nothing during this, and AL were able to grab the grubs. It's going to be On instead, teleporting to the mid-wave here. So let's see if he can get out and maybe help Elk move on and maybe get Shadow some advantages. We still have not started up this dragon.
Yeah, there's a big old control ward on that seemingly right now. Looks like the bot lane is going to attack Shanks at this point. W here for Elk. He's starting to dish out a little bit of damage here. Shanks is down to 40% HP. That could be now the signal for BLG to rotate down to the bottom side. But now Shadow's entire top side has respawned. So it's never the perfect situation here for BLG to start up this dragon.
Also have a topside scuttle that they can play for if they want. Flandre still has no flash and no teleport. Bin, however, both of those summoner spells are still up. With Shadow on this side of the map, wonder if these junglers are going to be looking for a play onto the Gwen or the Jace. That would be the easiest answer for them, especially with how much priority they're getting thanks to having the Xayah in mid lane.
Getting some good damage on the Shanks. He's going to have to go back to base, and if they want to try to contest anything, TP back. That's another summoner spell potentially burned. We see our junglers interacting here a little bit. Tarzan dashing forward onto Shadow. Just the clone to get out. Not much there. Bit of a quieter early game this time around. Seems like after that first game, these guys wanted to chill maybe just a little bit longer, but even without the kill count being very high, we're seeing these teams still making proactive plays.
Yeah, and it's really important there that Tarzan actually finds Shadow, because it allows now Flandre to play with a little bit more confidence. He knows, okay, enemy jungler is on this side of the map, but they're not necessarily in my lane right now. I'm allowed to push this next one. You can see that he is crashing this wave. There are pings going out, though. He knows that he is the only play that's being able to be made. The Elk just reset. They're also this bottom lane. They're playing for this dragon. Flandre, you need to be careful. You need to play with a little bit more caution.
Yeah, remember that flash not on cooldown, or sorry, on cooldown for a bit less than a minute, but that minute be all too crucial as On comes in with the quickness, lands that grand entrance as well. Zero chance for escape for Flandre unless he's able to jump underneath this turret, but the snip comes in from Bin. There'll be 2 flashes for none, but that one is going to go in favor of Flandre going down.
All right, Flandre goes down. How much more can Bin actually take here? He does have the Grasp of the Undying, so it will mean that he should be able to get some damage onto this turret. He's going to get pushed off by Kael. Tarzan, during this trade, they push on bottom lane wave, and they take some camps away from Shadow. That was at least the respawn Raptors yet again taken by Tarzan. So small objective wins across the map, but they're getting Bin set up to be a really strong Gwen, almost 20 CS in the advantage.
Yeah, and now BLG back in the driver's seat in terms of gold after that kill, although it is very, very minuscule at this point in time. AL, of course, got themselves a dragon off of the backside of that play. We wait for more action here to unfold, and again, a rematch of the LPL split to finals. Shadow gonna catch out Shanks, and Honest actually use that grand exit over the wall. But again, BLG posturing very aggressively, trying to scout out any potential move that AL go for.
Observers won't show it here, but if you look at the minimap, it is all blue wards lighting up this river. It's 3 minutes before the dragon, and really what BLG are doing is just trying to trap AL, see if anybody's going to step out of position.
I mean, maybe they do right here. Shanks not going to find a taunt onto anybody, but now it might be Shadow out of position. Kael with the 2-man pop blossom, and the hero's entrance in from Shanks will take Shadow down. Now Elky flashes, not in the right position right now. Both of those summoner spells are out of the fight, and Tarzan's going to be able to get himself out to safety as well. But here comes Bin. He gets one more with the needlework, and curtain call has been opened up. It's Hope looking for that fourth shot on the night, and he crits him down. Bin and On now on the run, but not for long as Flandre will claim another. Anyone's Legends dominate the fight around the Drake pit.
BLG, you do not have damage at this time right now. Like, you have a Trinity Force spike coming in from Shadow. That's great, but he goes down at the beginning of the fight. And Knight, with this Seraphs, he has a lot of it. He might have some AP, but it's not even fully stacked. You don't have that same survivability. Bin had not completed his item yet. If somehow BLG could have stalled that fight, maybe another 30 seconds, I think it's playable. But we get to see the start of this fight. Again, Kael with a massive Pop Blossom. Shadow to get caught off to start, and then 2 members getting knocked up here. But the fight is split. I mean, Gwen teleports in. Jace is going to be late, and Shanks plays this so incredibly. Flashes away from the Blade Caller. Elk gets taken down. And now all of the damage from BLG, where is it?
I mean, part of me's asking, like, they were really fishing for a fight. It feels like not necessarily the best situation here. You have Hope, who's able to get a ton here. Shanks is in a really powerful point as well. Meanwhile, you have Knight, who's like just sitting on a uncompleted Seraphs, and that's the play that you decide to go for. Very curious for BLG, especially with no objectives really available for the taking.
Fate of Warfare completed, and them getting the first dragon in all 3 grubs means that this Herald spawning in 45 could be feats of strength. And if it's not then, well, guess what, Grapes? There's still a dragon in a minute and a half. On's looking for something.
He just wants to continuously try to find some plays, but it might just be to his demise. As On is able to use his spellbook, get on out of there. But man, they're really looking to go aggressive.
Both supports not having ults. I do think that this does advantage over to BLG, the fact that there's no Pop Blossom for this Herald if they want to play for it. Elk as well does have that Feather Storm. You can see that Bin just dropped off a wave in topside. Not the best matchup for the Galio to be facing off against. So as long as Bin is able to keep his advantage, as long as he's able to kind of stay a little bit ahead of the curve, he should do very well against either one of the solo laners here of anyone's Legend.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that full Nashor's Tooth. He's got now the plated steel caps as well. Gonna soak up a lot of damage from Flandre specifically. The Rift Herald has been started up now by BLG. We have no teleport available for Shanks, or maybe it's just about to come off his cooldown. There's a weird bug there, but regardless, it's gonna be Bilibili trying to burst this one down. Anyone's Legend's not in a position to take it just yet unless Tarzan just walks in the pit. No, it's Elk to secure it. The Crescent Guard comes out, but On is immediately
Galio's
the target.
coming.
Tarzan, though, gets shut down, but the Hero's entrance comes through and it knocks up 2, but already BLG in a good position as they win this fight for now. Hope with a deadly flourish to try to get something more, but Shanks is just 1v9ing in the Rift Herald pit. He's able to take one down with them, but overall BLG control the area.
Oh, they're going to also get a mid lane tier 1 off of it as well. Oh, On doesn't go down. The Herald still drops, and thankfully for them, that turret is going to be incredibly low, that they'll always be able to pick this off. Ah, man, BLG, they pulled their timer really well. They knew that Shanks had just committed the teleport to bottom lane, and even with the hero's entrance, Knight instead immediately drops the wave, teleports into the fight, and they make that fight happen for them.
Tarzan just walked in there, and it wasn't even the smite, it was the Xayah auto that stole it.
70 HP. Nobody's in position. Remember, we don't have the Pop Blossom from Kael. This is an incredibly forced fight coming in from Anyone's Legends to try to contest. Shadow ends up immediately summoning it, maybe to just give one of his teammates an out button. He's like, okay, maybe I'm going down, but I could save Private On. So a forced fight, I think, coming in from BLG, recognizing the fact that they just got that summoner spell, or that ultimate from the support.
Another deadly flourish landed onto On, chunked him down to half. And the Dragon, second one of the game, secured by Anyone's Legends, the Mountain. So it'll be an Ocean Soul across the Rift, and AL in good position to claim that one as Tarzan's going right back in onto On. Has his flash available. The Conqueror's already been proc. There's the Crescent Guard. Kael going in for the Pop Blossom, going now onto Shadow. They changed their target selection perfectly. Well, on the other side of things, it's Flandre getting soloed by Bin.
Bin's like, I don't care what the hell's going on that side of the map. I'm grabbing this turret. You guys can keep faffing about. I will just make sure that we're doing well. I mean, has to use the flash in trade for that, and while On might escape, it's another kill going over to AL to try to get Shadow behind. I don't think it's all that bad, though. I mean, the Demolish proc is going to go off. How much more can Bin actually get?
Will likely go down without having a lot of mana or that flash, but does find it worth it as he picked up a solo kill. And that's your one turn. Maybe another one onto Hope. The barrier enough to keep himself healthy enough. And Hope will get himself back on the board as now the mid lane fight opened up. Shanks almost taking out Elk by himself. Tarzan that dashes in, but he gets canceled on finishing off that audacious charge. 3 talent strike lands onto On. The damage is big, but not enough to take anybody down.
That's really tight, though, from BLG. They were really squeezing to see if they could get maybe another kill. And for BLG, I want to say, with AO grabbing 2 of the dragons, even with a lot of the chaos that's happening, they've gotten all of the summoner spells away from AL. So an upcoming dragon fight, maybe even an upcoming fight, maybe around the Otacon, could be something that they could look for. This is just a replay of how Bin grabbed that. That was really impressive from him, but I think BLG are maybe 1 or 2 steps away from being in a really commanding position, especially with this mid lane tier 1 being so low.
Question is, will they be able to fight around these objectives? Will they want to fight around any of these objectives? Now have 2 items here on Elk. However, you have 2 items on Hope as well. Overall, you know, the champions are in strong enough points, but honestly, AL is feeling pretty strong in their own right. Notably Shanks, honestly. On this Galio, he's dishing out a lot more damage than I anticipated him being able to do at this point in the game.
That Hollow Radiance is doing work for him, and what looks to be a Rift Maker next is going to make him very difficult for BLG to actually punch through. We'll see what more they can actually get done. Thanks to BLG having this Xayah, it is much easier for them to actually push these mid lane waves around and try to see if they can skirt around Vision, get into a good spot against AL. We have 2 minutes before that dragon spawns, and what I'm looking at is no flash on Tarzan or Shanks, and maybe we can try to punish Hope before that moment.
Watching, waiting, anticipating what exactly will happen here. But these major objectives spawning. Looks like we might even get another engage in the mid lane here. As BLG back off admirably. Much closer situation. Honestly, game number 1 was pretty close, but it did feel like AL were in control. This time around, though, BLG, they definitely still have a chance to get back into this one. I mean, Bin has been playing really well, and again, just the way their team composition is structured, very balanced all throughout.
You gotta be careful. They're gonna start calling us BLG fans that were defending them so much in this game.
What? Gold is 1,000 gold. Come on.
I can already feel it, man. The back of my head, I can feel random Twitch chatter 59. These guys keep talking about BLG winning this game. Can they shut the... So, we'll see. We'll see. AL,
Alright.
again,
Hey,
I like...
maybe a caster curse here on the Knights. There we go.
Yay!
Nice job, Hulk. You did it. Tarzan gets
Oh
the
man,
kill.
Pendissimo, man. I'm getting an AL jersey in my mailbox in a couple days anyway. It's fine, guys. Well, with Shanks grabbing a top lane turret there, maybe there's a mid lane turret next up here for AL as well. There's a teleport behind. They want to try to squeeze. Can BLG punish?
Teleports in from Bin. Tarzan is at about half HP, but the Hero's Entrance is going to protect him for now. Pop lost him, though it lands on the Elk. Not even able to use the Feather Storm or his barrier before he gets taken down.
Shadow?
And now Shadow's the target. The 4th shot not going to finish the job. But AL get exactly what they want. They get the mid-tier 1 and the enemy AD carry.
Well, now they get their pick of the litter here, Grapes. Do they decide they want the bear or the dragon, or do they want the Otacon? It looks like with it spawning in 15 seconds, the Ocean Dragon getting their soul point is going to be more important here for AL. They're going to spend their money, get back onto the map. Let's see if they can complete any really important items. I'm looking at Tarzan and Shanks. There's a Black Cleaver completed for the Xin Zhao, and oh man, so they just barely spot out Tarzan here. Knight is looking for him, but look at where the rest of his team is. Like,
What are we
I'm
doing?
looking at Elk and On. They're currently contesting bottom side and seeing if they can cover Bin while he takes his turret. They lose control of mid, and there's just no damage. Like, Elk isn't even hitting. Shadow just got off the Cyclone, but he's the only member alive in that moment. So, a great punish, I think, from AL, and BLG just overlooking, trying to really get anything from nothing.
And now they're just going to be able to probably secure this soul point. Unless there's some sort of miracle steal. Nope, secured by Tarzan. Ocean soul point now for your defending LPL champions. BLG starting to see their options dwindle and dwindle as we go throughout this game. AL being able to control things pretty handily here in the last couple of minutes. Tarzan, the big player here today on the Xin Zhao. Finding that international success, wanting more of it. It starts here in the regular season. Now the Otacon going to be maybe the target here as BLG trying to find out some stragglers.
Do they just try to rip it? You see that there's pings going on, but look at the waves. Look at how the map is set up right now. A mid wave shoving in, so Bin has to be able to catch this. A top wave is stacking for them, and they can very easily look to try to put multiple members to grab this mid tier or this bottom lane tier 1. BLG are going to cut their opponents off from the mid lane wave. This is a tough matchup to be thrown into as Shadow. You're going against Tarzan, one of, if not the best jungler in the league at times. And even though he may not have those international successes and only just now winning his first final, he has been top of the leaderboard when we talk about this guy. And sometimes he's the best in the world without any kind of results to show for it.
Yeah, and you know, for a long time, the conversation has been, oh, he's great domestically, he's great in the regular season, but you know, when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to internationals, well, it seems like he's starting to turn some of those narratives around by winning his domestic title, by performing well at MSI. Of course, you gotta still check off column A, which is doing well here in the LPL as Hope's been caught out by the Weaver's wall. Has to flash away for the grand entrance of Hope. Somehow the Jhin able to dodge away from any of that crowd control. Playing on a knife's edge there was Hope. And it might buy him enough space to go for another engage here. Poke is good from Flandre. I'm surprised that BLG still want to fight here around this dragon pit where there's no dragon to contest.
I mean, On has ultimate. They can try to look for a snap engage. They're looking for On and Shadow, but you're right. They're missing out on a lot of gold right now. BLG, what is one of the issues that we've had with them all season long? Their objective setups are just piss poor. They're over-forcing, trying to look for an advantage and play that aggressive style that got them to a World Finals just last year. The game has changed. Everything about the Summoner's Rift is different at this point. And that style that they may have gotten away with in a couple months ago, not the same game here. So that pick on the Hope, it's a flash down. There's still dragon spawning in 2 minutes, and maybe they just try to make a flip around that Otacon.
You want to say time is running out, but scaling is still all right for BLG. Think that eventually they'd be able to just find a fight that they want, but now with the soul counting down,
Here we go.
maybe they just think they have to start this objective off. On pop the Ghost to try to zone Flandre away, but Tarzan is going to be made aware of this rather quick. But look at the Otacon, it's burning very low. Tarzan has to get in there very fast, but he's going to get knocked up and not be able to secure the steal. So it's Otacon picked up for Bilibili Gaming as they back out scot-free.
Great call there. We talked about them fighting for what seemed like nothing. It was positioning. They were jockeying for the ability to potentially go for Otacon. And you have a Gwen on your team. I mean, Gwen's level 14. That passive is going to rip through these neutral objectives. So I think a good call out there from Bilibili. Being able to grab themselves the blood petals that are on the map. That's experience that kind of puts them a little bit closer towards their opponents. That's some adaptive force that's also not going to be feeling too bad. So I think for me now, when I'm looking at Bilibili, I'm looking at Bin on a side lane now. He's getting very close to level 16 on this Gwen.
And when he gets there, I mean, then the fights really start to turn around a little bit. Once Knight maybe gets another item, once Elk hits that, I guess is either a Bloodthirster or he's just going to go IE and hold that Bam Scepter. Either way, that's really when BLG can come to party a little bit more. But it's really hard to stop what AL are putting to the table right now. Tarzan is so strong now on this Xin, able to constantly start the fights that he wants. And then you think about the 2 teleports that are available on their Soul Link, Shanks' ability to join with the hero's entrance basically at moment's notice. And you always, by the way, have to be worried about a cloned Jhin, a cloned cannon minion that ends up just becoming Kael, rooting your entire team and losing you the game, as we have this dragon spawning in 30 seconds now.
AL, they're going to brute force their way in. This Jhin with the maximum amount of range with the RFC and Infinity Edge completed. Look at how difficult it is now. Jhin traps, wards, everything, making it impossible for BLG to walk through. Flandre's going to clear one more bottom lane wave, which could give a timer here for BLG. They cleared out a pretty good amount of vision and still have control of the mid lane wave. Knight, with that Weaver's Raw, could have the potential to split open this fight, and Bin waiting in a side lane now.
That needlework and his flash available, but not level 16. Oh, what? A job from Kael there to try to cancel some of those initial engagements, but now he gets collapsed upon. Not even going to be able to pop the Plot Blossom as it's on to pick up the shutdown. Weaver's Wall separating the fight out, but Tarzan's going to try to collapse in onto On. But it is BLG finding a comeback. Bin with the needlework, chunking out Flandre, but Tarzan and Flandre still alive, but not for long. Him and Shanks have to do the work, but the seismic shove connects. Shanks, though, with a 3-man taunt, going to try to find something, but BLG at a knife's edge get themselves the ace.
Wow, and that started with what looked like a heartbreaking Tangle Barbs from Kael. The snap engage right onto this Nico. They kill him, they take the dragon, and they're going to move over to the Baron. BLG still have fight and are looking to keep themselves in this series.
Oh, how close that fight was. But Bin, with the Gwen, able to do so much damage on the back end of it, and it started off with this snap onto Kael.
Dude, like, I see this, I'm like, oh wow, there's no grand entrance, that's perfect. And this is blind.
Look at Knight.
Right around the corner into this engage. And even the Galliard, this Talia wall from Knight, I think, splits open this fight perfectly. Tarzan, Flandre, and Shanks, a lot of the damage no longer being next to their opponents. And with AL no longer to be able to play a clean front to back, they get ripped apart. And I love that Zoni is coming in. They're stalling out this game, and some of those scaling elements are starting to come true.
I mean, it all starts with that initial pick, obviously, by Knight, who now has himself that Rabadon's death cap, getting stronger as we speak. Level 16 now hit from both him and Bin on the Gwen, as this gold lead swinging right back into BLG's favor. They do not want to go down quietly. They have lost 5 straight games to anyone's legend when you count the finals, you count MSI, and now counting this series as well. They don't want to make it a 6 just yet.
So no teleport, we're fighting over nothing seemingly.
Tarzan getting very low, but there's a 4-man Pop Blossom. Elk forced him off the Featherstorm early, but On will go down first. It's a trade, jungler for Kael, I should say. On still alive. But that's a 1-for-1 that overall is not the worst case scenario for
and a
AL.
Weaver's Wall to stop him. That's cute. I like that Knight. Very cheeky. But with this Baron, look what else they're able to grab. This is a winning spot for BLG. They may have traded their jungler, but they get 2 turrets on this. And AL, they look lost without their ability to really find more kills.
And now the scaling really has arrived. You can feel a momentum shift here in this game. BLG now have the stronger players, the stronger champions, it seems. Whether it's through the experience, in terms of the levels of these guys, but also just, you know, how this Baron buff has been able to shape this game. 4,000 gold almost is the lead now for BLG, and they still have a minute and change left to try to do some further damage.
Got 2.5 minutes before that dragon spawns, and that is Soul. Every 5 minutes, BLG have to be looking to play. AL, I think this next item that they buy on for a lot of their carries is going to make or break.
Ooh,
a little too forward. Should still be fine, even though he doesn't have any summoner spells. He's playing Rakan, very slippery as a champion, just defending the blue buff here from AL.
Hope does get it. So a small win there for anyone's Legends that they retain their own blue buff. But not much else to say, as BLG have now opened this gold lead up. And they still let Baron for another wave. This might be the last one, but they're going to want to try to make it count. Shadow dashes forward here onto just the Nico clone. Knight trying to escort this wave in. And there's 4 members of a BLG pushing here on the bottom side. Looking for a little bit of poke. Oh, Shanks is down a little bit of health as well. Hope not able to find the poke, as this is going to be that tier 2 tower falling. And now Bin can turn his sights towards the inhib tower. But overall, BLG have to be thrilled with what they got off of this Baron power play, even though there was no inhibitors that were even felled.
One of the strengths of AL's composition is the fact that they can kind of play on 2 separate lanes. You can have Jhin bounce between waves, ping pong between 2 different lanes, so that you can use that deadly flourish and maybe make a play in your own jungle with Tarzan and with Shanks. But BLG are playing the map really, really well in this instance. When you have been so far ahead, he is able to be his own side lane threat. You have to send multiple members to deal with them, and then you're potentially having to deal with also a Talia. You know, it's so difficult for AL to try to make sections of this map work for them, and especially when they didn't find all of the early game success, it starts to hurt them. Maybe that fight around that bottom side could have been the point where we're going to be saying that's the point where BLG got back into this.
It's a very confusing game. Number 2 so far. Very close game, I guess, overall. AL seemed like they were really in control for the first 20 minutes or so, but ever since BLG grabbed that Otacon, really have been them building their way back towards a really powerful team composition that has now been opened up. Bin and Knight both at level 17 with this dragon spawning in 30 seconds. And AL, they know it's Soul, but it's going to be really hard for them to contest at this point.
So, we take a look at this game right now. Minute and a half before Baron, there's a dragon spawning in 10. There's absolutely no vision very far outside of anyone's Legends base. And while Shanks is going to clear a top lane wave, he's going to have to book it down towards this dragon. Can AL actually even contest? They're not even in position to really go for this. Instead, maybe just prioritizing, let's get a couple more items. Let's see if we can get one more onto Shanks. Maybe see if we can squeeze a little bit of golden experience for a player like Tarzan.
Well, now here's the question is, does that scaling even help you anymore if you are AL, or like the items that you're getting? Because now we're at that point in the game where the carries on BLG might just be just a little bit stronger. We have 4 full items now on Elf, 3.5 on both Knight and Bin. Bin nearly having that death cap completed. I mean, they're going to be in such powerful positions here as we continue throughout this one, especially considering they're also ahead in gold at this point, specifically in the solo lanes.
This started from the early laning phase. We came into this draft, we're like, okay, you have Jace, we have some lanes of priority to play with, this is good, but Gwen getting that first kill and then just Flandre messing up some of his lane has made this game incredibly difficult to play. Who's gonna kill Gwen in a side lane at this time? Even before she finishes the Rabadon. Galio's not doing it. Jace is not doing it.
Yep.
You need to have multiple members, and AL, they have no reason to be this far out onto the map right now. Flandre's going to see if he can push one more. You have 3 grubs, buddy. I think you just got to be able to take this turret.
Oh,
and
wow.
Baron's going to spawn in 5.
He's bailing. They're going to try to go for maybe a fight instead. He's going to head back to base, pick up maybe any last items, an elixir or something, and make himself as strong as possible for this fighter on the Baron, but it looks like instead On's gonna pull the trigger first. Kael gets caught out. Shadow gets himself the kill, and now it's a 5v4 around the Baron pit. Shanks now gonna get targeted here. He's in, it's a 3v1. Tarzan's not in a position to try to stop this, and here comes a teleport, but it's from Bin on the Gwen. He might have gone a little bit too far forward though, but here comes the snip snip. Shanks in a whole lot of danger. He flashes away, but lands a taunt onto Hope, able to get a crit, but not a kill. Shanks is down, his Elk will pick it up, and now it's a 5v3 across the map. Tarzan in a terrible spot, as Bin will go golden Knight, not even a land the seismic shove. Curtain call's been opened up. Not an ability to cancel this one yet, but BLG know they can retreat right back to the Baron Nashor and claim it for themselves.
On's gonna teleport back into the mid lane wave. Maybe AL can contest. I think BLG recognize this is a little too dicey. It's 35 seconds before Shanks is back up. He has a teleport and he still has that heroic entrance. So BLG will take their kills. They'll take the summoner spells. More importantly, they're able to trade versus their opponents and spend a little bit of their dosh. Get right back onto the map. I'm looking at Bidman. This guy is unkillable in all of these fights. No Zonia's available. Might give AL a window back into this game, but On's going to have that grand entrance back in soon, and that could just make it impossible for BLG to lose this Baron.
Bin picking up the death cap as well. Going to be even more powerful on this Gwen. Level 18. This is the Bin that we were expecting going into Split 3. One that had a vengeance, wanted revenge off of what happened to them in the finals, what happened to MSI. As BLG looking to even up this series score, the first matchup that both of these teams have played in the Split 3 regular season. We've eclipsed the 36-minute mark. BLG still worried, still hesitant to start off this Baron. They want to try to find the fight first.
Posturing around, seeing that On could look for an engage. No flash, but that grand entrance is deadly. The rest of BLG, though, just jockeying and using their bodies to create vision now.
Taunt lands onto On. Down to half HP, has to burn that summoner heal. Still has the quickness though available. Wants to look for that engage. Crucially though, its health bars are chunked significantly and the waves are not in great spots for AL. They're gonna have to go for some slight resource resets, and that might give BLG another opportunity to clear out some vision and make sure they have full control of this Baron pit.
Okay, Flandre now finishing a Serpent's Fang. Shanks potentially, you know, doing something. He does have a Zonia's, so when it comes to being able to be a bit more survivable, also provide some of that damage. It is available to him. I like this from Kael. We have not talked too much about the itemization here for the supports, but having the Frozen Heart I think is quite interesting when you look at even Bin here. Baron being started for BLG, and look at where Hope is. He is all the way back in base.
They knew they could go because he's on that base timer right now. Tarzan's gonna have to try to find some steal. Can he get into the pit in time? No! The Summoner Book Smite from On will secure the Baron Nashor, but will BLG be able to escape? The Deadly Flourish lands on as soon as he pops that quickness. Not gonna be able to find that engage onto anybody, and so BLG will instead look to retreat. And Anyone's Legends, they might not want to be able to let that happen. Hope gonna flash away from the Cyclone, and Kael going to try to stun up Shadow, but he gets one shot before anything else can be said about it. And Hope will drop to Elk as he just dives onto the back line of Anyone's Legend. And Bilibili Gaming are done with this series just yet. They won't end up in the same fate as their matchup in MSI. They will take a game off the defending LPL champs, and they'll force a decider in the regular season.
Holy crap, Elk, he stepped forward and he wanted all of those kills. Shadow went hunting for Hope, and that's going to open up this series. It's going to make us a 1-1, tie everything up, and send us all the way to 3.
5 straight games, BLG had fallen to Anyone's Legend. That will not happen for a 6th. As Bilibili get their first win with their new look roster, and we head to game number 3.
How many more honeymoons do we really got in us right now? We don't know. We'll see if BLG are able to close this one out, but some early game woes from Anyone's Legends. They still held control of the objectives, and I want to say a great performance either way from Tarzan, but Flandre made this game so more difficult than it needed to be. That early game lane, just losing out on priority. You're supposed to be in a winning spot versus the Gwen, especially early. That was completely out the window.
Yeah, this Gwen really just took over. I mean, Bin might be MVP, it might be Knight. I mean, there's a lot of people that could go to, I guess, at the end of the day. But what Bin was able to do to Flandre after what Flandre was able to do in that first game on the Rumble was the difference in that game, right? I mean, if Flandre was even remotely stronger on this Jace pick, or was on something like it, or something even a little bit different, could be looking at series being over at this point, but that is not the case. As BLG, their solo laners really came to life in this one. I mean, talked about Bin, Knight with some tremendous engages, specifically that one around that dragon that ended up really turning the game in their favor.
I still have a bit of questions here for BLG. I still think that there were parts of that game where AL kind of led them around the map, made it difficult. I mean, the fact that they got the first 3 dragons of the game is still really impressive, but that felt more like older BLG, where your soul laners are coming in. BLG and specifically Bin is having a monster performance. One of the things that I think, as a fan of BLG for a while now, or this iteration of BLG, is Bin used to have this like inevitability. You knew in a game, if Bin was on like a good champion, or if Bin was like in form, at like 25-30 minutes, it didn't matter what was the scoreline, you were like, Bin probably still wins this. Bin will just 1v9. And we got to see shades of that. And that is why I think some fans might be clamoring for BLG of old. They want to get back to those moments where we can trust our laners and we know that the best in the league are going to perform.
And the league is better when Bin is at the top of his game, when Knight's at the top of his game. And again, we saw that glimpse. Can't really say they're fully back yet because it's just been one game, but especially because of what that game number 1 looked like, right? So
yeah.
If you are BLG, got to keep moving forward, keep trudging along. Taking a game is great. You're able to do that in the finals of the LPL, but that doesn't matter if you end up losing the series again. And so anyone's legends are going to want to try and prevent that from happening. Just take a look at the gold graph and all the like. Very balanced effort, I think, all things considered. And you can see that AL had themselves an advantage, and then there's that little turning point around the dragon that BLG started to scale.
Someone who doesn't get enough credit on this team is Elk. I mean, I think consistently he has proved that he's a top-level AD carry in this league for at least the last 2 years. And when you look at iterations of BLG, it has almost always been centered around not only Bin, but now this addition of Elk and On in the last 2. Elk just being this constant threat in a lot of these fights, I think is really impressive when we talk about BLG and kind of their rise to fame, rise to power. We got to see it here in this game. He played with that same level of aggression and precision that we expect from a top-level player, and you do have to kind of take some of the high highs with the low lows that we get from Elk and On, but when they hit, I feel like these two are especially world-class.
I mean, ever since this BLG team kind of rose to fame, obviously Bin has been like a franchise player, but Elk also has been a part of all these successful iterations of this team, allowing for BLG to get to that international level of competition where they really were always one that was feared. But here, trying to find that magic again, and you know, Elk having a pretty good game, all things considered, on the Xayah, never really was under any significant danger, it seemed like, and finding that last engage, just flashing in to the backline, taking down Hope to wrap up that game. As we go through some of these highlights, that was a big moment as well here for BLG.
Really impressed by what we got from BLG this game, but it's just that nagging feeling of like, can we get more consistent game? It's the same reason why, like, when we commentate a team like Top Esports, we're like, okay, how many Top Esports games are we going to get? Are we going to get good top, or are we going to get bad TES? Like, I don't know. That's why I'm worried about for BLG in a similar manner. It's why I think a lot of fans at home might say that the LPL is a little weaker this year compared to our LCK counterparts, is the consistency to always be able to churn out games left and right at a high enough level is not where it used to be, at least not spread amongst our top level teams outside of a team like maybe anyone's legend.
Yeah, I feel like all this season as a whole, it's been a lot of, you know, organizations finding high highs, low lows. I mean, BLG obviously with their crazy run through the second round robin when they first brought Beichuan onto the roster. Top Esports winning Split 1 and struggling in the playoffs after a pretty dominant regular season. People kind of forget about that. They were still at first place at the end, or you know, top 2 at the end of the regular season, before kind of just really petering out. Anyone's Legends, though, kind of the more consistent one out of the whole bunch. You think of JDG, Weibo, IG, they've all had their ups and downs. And it's going to be the team that gets hot at the right time or just is able to stay super consistent. The BLG haven't been that just yet, but maybe with this new roster, there's an opportunity to open that up.
Games like these are going to be very important. When we talk about the double round robin and who's going to secure top 4, when we think about our format, top 4 immediately getting into playoffs. They don't have to play a kind of play-in situation. Not expecting for either of these teams to really be on the bubble in that way, but especially against top teams that you're facing off against, like a top esports, even an IG who are currently kind of on a run right now. Series like these where you're able to take confident wins or even just beat them in double round robin could make or break whether you're a 2nd seed or a 4th seed. So as we see Knight pick up an MVP for this game, I feel like his boy Bin was robbed a little bit, not gonna lie, but certainly had some high impact moments in this game.
I won him a bunch of fights. I'm going to give it to him. Finding that blind engage, as you mentioned, on the Kael, catching him out, that was a really big opportunity, a really big moment in that game. That was a turning point. And would that be the turning point in just the game or, maybe the series even, as BLG evening things up against the defending champions. Again, our rematch of this grand finals. But, one more game is all it will take to figure out our winner this time around. Not a best of 5, just a best of 3. So we are headed to that decider. See who comes out on top between AL and BLG right after this on LPL English.